I'm super excited about this book, and I'm hoping that everyone who reads it will really enjoy it and get a lot out of it as well. The book's called Strategies for Success in the Indian Premier League. So essentially, I'm writing in detail about high expectation recruitment, on-pitch strategies. And these are the things that teams should be implementing. Of course, they're sometimes doing it, but a lot of the time they're not as well. So I'll give you guys a flavour of what's in the book and some of the areas that I'm covering. One area that I look at a lot is establishing the drivers for success in this particular competition, and how does that affect budget distribution at an auction. So, for example, research might find that a lot of rotational batsmen, guys who aren't boundary hitters, but they rotate the strike a lot, so they have a high non-boundary strike rate but a low boundary percentage. They're generally quite stability orientated. They might be overpriced in the market compared to, say, a high quality death bowler. So that's an area that I focus on a lot. For example, there's local batsmen playing inside Mushtaq Ali Trophy. I kind of equate that to like one division below the IPL, if that makes sense. And these guys can do like a 80 or 90% similar job as a stability focused rotator type batsman, So kind of makes sense to teams to look at them as an option for like 50 lakh kind of prices, and then spend the big money on like a premium death bowler or a world class all rounder who can slaughter teams at the death with the boundary hitting, like guys like Russell or Hardik Pandya or something like that, because there's scarce resources in the market, these like premium death bowlers and high quality all rounders. So it makes sense to value them more, and then you can pick up the other parts of your team a lot cheaper because there's so much supply of them, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
And the fact that teams sometimes spend like 8 crore or more on like a rotational batsman or even worse, an overseas one, just completely blows my mind, to be honest with you. I talk a lot about in the book as well about the age curve dynamics, stuff like that. So looking at identifying when older players decline. So currently as a collective, IPL teams are spending 31% of their budgets on players aged 31 to 34.
Wow.
But these players only played 27% of IPL matches in the last 2 years. So there's a bit of a discrepancy of how much they're paying compared to how much they're actually being played. So a question I might ask of teams is whether they're holding on to a highly paid big name potentially, who might potentially be a decline for like one retention too many, should some of the older players have been released and not get IPL contracts earlier. And a lot of the big names in Indian cricket are kind of getting towards or past peak age. So there might have to be quite a big change in the future. For example, CSK are quite renowned for having an older, more experienced squad. And while these players they've got so much more experience, and I think that's their kind of USP, if you like, there will be a point where they decline so much that they will need to be replaced. And will this be at the next major auction? Will the next major auction even be next year? Because obviously, I think the 2020 season has to be played before there is another major auction. So no one really knows. But this stuff's up in the air. And I think teams need to be very aware of that age improvement and age decline curve for younger players and older players, and be quite mindful of releasing players at the right time before or at the point where their numbers decline. And on the subject of CSK as well, I talk a lot about venues and venue dynamics with team selection as well. So listeners who follow the IPL a lot might be aware that Chapor, Chennai's home ground, is really spin friendly, and the difference in spin and pace economy rates are just completely absurd there. Spin goes for like just over 6 and over, and pace goes for almost 9 and over. Now, CSK are a formidable outfit at home, but that's not necessarily because their pace, their spin bowling numbers are a lot better than their opposition in terms of economy rate. It's not that much better than their opposition. They just bowl a lot more of spin at their home venue compared to the opposition teams. So, for example, I'll give you some stats. Like, they out of the last 9 games, so 2018-2019 season, since they got readmitted to IPL, they've bowled 70 balls of spin or more 6 out of 9 times at home. But their opposition teams who are away there have only bowled 70 balls or more of spin once. So they haven't quite cottoned on to the conditions and how they should structure their team to play an away match, against China Super Kings. CSK bowled 58% of balls that spin in the last 2 seasons there at home. Opposition teams just 47%. So immediately there's just some basic stats that will tell you how you can approach the problem differently for an away match at Chakok. And teams can't really say that that's because they don't have the bowlers in their squad to do that. They do. They just don't. They're unaware of that. Every IPL team's got like three or more spinners in their squad. So it's a decision that they've consciously made not to take that spin approach away, even though the numbers are increasingly more in favour of bowling a lot of spin there.
Right.
Another area that I talk about a bit in the book is that cricket's 3-point moment. So in basketball, they kind of worked out that even with a lower success percentage, it was more higher expectation to go for 3-point shots a lot more. And the reward was worth it compared to the risk. And I talk about something that I've identified in cricket, which would be kind of comparable to this, but I don't really want to spoil it yet by saying much more than that.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to check out more of our content, go to sporttechdaily.com or follow us on social media across Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram.